For almost 5 years, an army of pirates had seized control of China's seas, attacking merchant ships and continuously terrorizing the Chinese and Portuguese navy. The pirates had assumed complete authority over many Chinese coastal villages, imposing taxes, beheading any defaulters, and abducting the women and children to be sold as slaves. In January 1808, the Chinese government felt they had had enough. They launched a bloody manhunt for the pirates, blockading them at bay for 3 weeks with an enormous military force armed to the teeth. At the end of the operation, the pirates once more stood tall, looking at countless dead bodies of Chinese naval officers littered on the sea, and the naval vessels captured and integrated into the pirate fleet. Surprisingly, at the supreme command of the pirate army was a 33-year-old woman, Ching Shih, a former Cantonese prostitute who had made a spectacular rise to power with over 70,000 pirates and 1,800 ships under her command. During the golden age of piracy, female pirate leaders were a rare phenomenon. Not only was Ching Shih an exception, she also rose to become the greatest pirate of all time. Ching Shih was born in 1775 in the Chinese province of Gansu. She started her career as a prostitute in a floating brothel in Canton, the region's capital city. The life of a prostitute had molded her into a shrewd businesswoman, taking advantage of all opportunities that present her with wealthy and politically connected acquaintances and wielding power to her advantage. Ching Shih was exceptionally talented in pillow-talking powerful men to desired outcomes. Zhang Yi, a notorious Chinese pirate from a renowned family of pirates who happens to be one of Ching Shih's acquaintances, had literally become obsessed with her and badly wanted her all for himself. They got married in 1801. Though Zhang Yi freely offered Ching Shih 50% of his share of the loot, she wanted to be an influential member of his crew and control piracy operations. Another brilliant initiative that would later pay off big time. Shortly after the union, Ching Shih used her powers of intrigue and leveraged Zhang Yi's reputation as a notorious pirate to rally small groups of rival pirate fleets to create a massive coalition of pirate fleets under Zhang Yi. The unified alliance, known as the Red Flag Fleet, became a formidable force on the Asian seas, superior in both number and gunpowder to any navy or merchant fleet. In November 1807, Zhang Yi died unexpectedly in Vietnam, leaving his son Chung Po as heir. Chung Po was loved and respected by family members and other pirate captains and was looked upon as a potential leader. However, before Zhang Yi's death, Ching Shih had thoroughly familiarized herself with the piracy operations and had created strong connections within the network. Notwithstanding, she still had to find a way to get her husband's family members to acknowledge her as the new manager of the family business and earn the trust of the other pirate captains before she could assume the leadership of the Pirate Confederation. First, she seduced her stepson, Chung Po, into a sexual relationship, making sure the boy gave her his total allegiance as he did to his late father. Chung Po is reported to have obeyed Ching Shih to the letter and not doing anything without her consent. Next, she took advantage of internal conflicts in her husband's family, taking the side of the most powerful faction to get their support in her quest. In this light, she is reported to have entered into a casual sexual relationship with her late husband's nephew, Zheng Bao, who happens to be the most influential member of the family. Finally, she shared her powers with her lieutenants, promised lower-ranking pirates a fair revenue share, and maintained a cordial relationship with Guo Padai, the leader of the second biggest fleet in the coalition. Ching Shih implemented a very transparent system of management. The pirates who brought in the loot were entitled to 20% of its value. The remainder, 80%, was placed in a collective fund to be shared with the rest of the crew. Ching Shih knew that running a crew of unethical, sex-starving men could be a challenge for a woman. She had to enact a strict code of conduct to maintain order and the unity of the alliance. The key pronouncements were as follows. 1. Disobey Ching Shih's orders or the orders of a senior pirate and you're beheaded on the spot. 2. Hand all your loot to a superior pirate who then distributes to the entire crew afterward. Keep the loot for yourself and you're severely flogged the first time. Do it again and you are headless. 3. Desert your post or take a walk to the shores without permission and you lose your ears. Do it again and you're dead. 4. Rape a female captive and you lose your head. 5. Have consensual sex with a female captive without Ching Shih's permission. You lose your head while she takes a swim. 6. You want a sexual relationship with a female hostage. You take her as your wife and better treat her well and be faithful to her. 7. During operations, avoid the use of words like stealing or plundering. simply say transfer of shipment. It sounds a lot nicer. Ching Shih's code gave rise to a high level of discipline within the ranks of the Red Flag Fleet, such that the crew members became fearless and unyielding, even when confronted by a superior force. By the end of 1807, Ching Shih had assumed complete control of the Pirate Confederation. In September 1808, she ambushed Lin Guoliang, a general in the Chinese Imperial Navy, destroyed part of his fleet near the Mazao Island, and confiscated the rest. A month later, together with Zhang Bao, they defeated Colonel Lin Fa near the Wei Yuan Island and laid waste to the whole Imperial fleet. By this time, the Chinese Navy had lost over half of its provincial fleet, giving the pirate coalition unrestricted entry into the Pearl River and access into the hinterlands. They sailed into Chinese river towns and coastal villages and looted great wealth. They imposed taxes and beheaded those who tried to challenge their authority. Defaulters were taken to be sold as slaves, together with their women and children. They also invaded government camps, collecting money, looting treasures, and took hostages. They hijacked any merchant or naval ships that ventured into the Chinese waters, emptied the contents into their vessels, integrated the captured vessels into their pirate fleets, and held sailors for ransom. Within 2 years of Ching Shih's leadership, the Red Flag fleets had grown inconceivably in size and strength, with over 70,000 men and 1,800 ships under her command. In March 1809, she captured the East India Company merchant ships and held 7 sailors for ransom. Shortly after the East India Company incident, Sun Quan Mu, a provincial navy commander with over 100 ships under his command, attacked a small group of independent pirates near Dawanshan Island. They were not part of the Red Fleet. The pirates cried to Ching Shih for help. Ching Shih immediately ordered Zhang Bao with about 10 coalition ships to engage the navy from the front and ordered some other lower-ranking pirates to flank the naval vessels from the sides. The Navy commander suddenly found himself sandwiched by 3 groups of a ferocious pirate army with overwhelming firepower. He tried to retreat, but was blockaded by Ching Shih herself. The bloodbath that ensued resulted in the death of General Xu Tingui and the loss of 25 imperial vessels to the Pirate Confederation. Being the opportunist she was, Ching Shih intervened in a fight that wasn't hers and left with 25 new ships to be added to her fleet. When the imperial government tried to use suicide boats, i.e. vessels loaded with explosives set on fire and launched towards the pirates, Ching Shih rallied her bravest men and put out the fire. She later repaired the boats and added them to her fleet. This was such a blow to the extent that the officer who commanded the operation is reported to have committed suicide. Every attempt by the Chinese government to bring Ching Shih and the Pirate Confederation under control met with severe defeats, a massacre of naval officers, and loss of imperial ships to the pirate fleet. At one point, the Chinese Navy resorted to using fishing boats for battle. The Chinese government also tried independent bounty hunters, but were all defeated by the Red Flag fleets. Ching Shih and her pirate confederation had become unstoppable. By mid-1809, the imperial government finally realized that Ching Shih's prowess and might is way beyond the containment of the Chinese Navy. It was time to keep ego aside and seek help from abroad. Around July 1809, the Chinese government hired the Portuguese Navy to hunt down Ching Shih and her men. At the same time, some other rival pirate groups and even a few of Ching Shih's former allies began working with the Chinese government to destroy the Red Flag fleet. She had become too powerful for their liking. Ching Shih eventually faced a powerful coalition of enemy fleets determined to end her operations. In November 1809, the Red Flag suffered a devastating defeat at the hands of the Portuguese Navy at the Battle of Tiger's Mouth. By this time, many of Ching Shih's followers were deserting. She began to realize her end was near. In January 1810, she suffered another severe defeat at the hands of the Portuguese Navy in the Battle of Chek-Lap-Kok, which resulted in the Red Flag's downfall. Ching Shih began to consider surrender. She had been the terror of the Chinese seas, but knew when it was time to stand down. However, being a shrewd businesswoman, Ching Shih wouldn't give up without terms. As we conclude the story, remember to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Ching Shih spent so many days bargaining and eventually reached an agreement with the imperial government on the 21st of January, 1810. By the terms of the agreement, she and all her followers were pardoned for their crimes and were allowed to keep all the treasure they had acquired over the years. Ching Shih also received a chunk of cash as severance pay, which she used to set up a brothel, a gambling house, and many smuggling enterprises in Macau. Ching Shih was also allowed to retain over 120 ships, which she used to transport cargo in her new salt business venture. She also asked for many of her followers to be recruited into the Chinese Imperial Navy, and for her lover Cheng Po to be given the rank of captain. Having her followers in the Navy was another smart move. She would later use them to inflict retribution on all the pirates who had betrayed her. Finally, despite the law forbidding widows from remarrying, the Chinese government, by exception, had to officially recognize her as Cheng Po's wife. The couple had 2 children, first a son named Cheng Yulin, born in 1813, and then a daughter sometime later. Ching Shih lived the rest of her life a very wealthy and respected woman. She died in 1844 at the age of 69, which was considered a ripe old age in China when the life expectancy was below 40 years. Thank you for watching, and do well to check out our next video right here.